probably should.
Welcome.
Fucking
That's our
unplug.
intro.
That's our intro. We were debating, do we do an intro or do we just jump into girl chat? But for anyone that's new here, what is up? Welcome. My name is Laura Patricia Martin.
I'm Stefanieelsperman.
And we like to hang out once a month. And we have our separate podcasts. And what?
And we like to hang out once a month. And I said, yeah, only one.
Only once. That's it. And we like to give you a little behind the scenes of what actually is going on with being a high performer, being a high achiever. We talk about relationships, we talk about mindset, we talk about business and everything in between, purpose, and how it all aligns to creating a life that is unhinged and real. And, you know, we went on this whole journey of a lot of podcasts give you a lot of facts and tools, and we love those. We have those separately, but who is the human behind it and what are those things? And so today we're, you know, in a pickle, the last bits of life. Let's give an actual life update of just like what's going on and where we at. And, you know, we like to listen to podcasts like this. So we wanted to invite you behind the scenes.
Welcome.
Welcome. How are you feeling, Miss Steffi Cakes?
Ask me first.
Uh-huh. You said ask me questions. I said, okay.
Damn it. Oh, how am I feeling? I'm feeling so goofy because I feel so raw. I feel like a noodle inside. And to give you guys some context, might be TMI. So plug your ears if you don't like it. I was fighting off death this morning. Meaning I never really have bad periods, but this morning something came over me and I was having a morning. I was having quite the morning. But there's something that's so clearing, and it was a lot of intense pain happening in my body. And there's something that's so clearing about that. And Laura and I were FaceTiming, and I was telling her about this experience I had this morning. She goes, so do you want to just like not record? We're not doing this, because she also knows that if she's ever down and out, I'm like, stop it. You have to clear your calendar. And most of the time, I am exactly that way, especially when it comes to like my body getting sick or feeling run down or like Epstein-Barr virus symptoms or anything like that. But with this, I don't know what it is about it. But I was talking to my mom and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go record with Laura. She was like, okay, perfect. So you just like get to be like you in this state without the energy for a show, without the energy to turn on a different side of myself. So we'll see what comes out of my mouth. But I feel really raw that like there's a cleansing energy that happens from any depth, whether it is through pain, whether it is through emotions, no matter what it is, like there's something that's so good. It's like when you cry and on the other side, you're like, oh, I can sleep like a baby. It's like having this much pain. And there was also like a whole mental, emotional side of it as well that I was going through, but just having all of this pain and then showing up and being like, oh, I feel like I was reborn. I'm not sure who I am, but I also know that the experience I had this morning is very much in conjunction with everything that I've been moving through. And I don't think that the body is random. It's just not. So that's how I am. How are you in this current
Love
state?
you. It's so funny because you never know with Steph, because her biggest thing is like, I need rest and take a break and don't push through. And then like randomly she'll be like, no, we're pushing through. And I'm like, yeah, we're pushing
For me, it's totally about like, what am I moving through? And I like can feel that energetically, because one of the big patterns that I've been moving through is around like victim mentality and really being in charge in my own life and releasing any fine little subconscious pieces of victim mentality. And that was what the whole experience this morning was about too. But there was something about this where I was like, no, like actually I'm not getting sick. My body is fine. I don't have to like, this is such a beautiful space that we create. Like there isn't something I need to remember. There isn't like a show to put on. It's not like anything intense. And I was like, why would I back out? Like, I'm good. I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. And that also goes for when I need to rest. It's not like, oh my God, my body's taking me out. I need to rest. Oh my gosh, I'm a victim to it. It's like, I'm in charge and I'm choosing to rest right now. If that means I have to shift things, if that means I have to deal with misunderstandings around why, I can handle that, but I'm in charge and I'm choosing it. I'm not a victim to my body. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's what it was really asking me to look at, is to understand that dance between when are you pushing versus when are you just consciously choosing, like, I'm good, I'm in charge.
Yeah. Which is
That's
so
what
funny
it
because I feel like I've had the opposite in the
is.
last 3 weeks because it's like I'm always pushing through. I never take breaks. I'm always like, I can override my body. I'm fine. Like that's just kind of how I run things where I'm like, I am not a victim to my body. I am not going to be a victim to my mental health. I am not going to be a victim to my circumstances. I'm going to constantly move and shake. And I do love that part of myself, especially in the beginning stages of growing a business. I'm like, so many people are like, oops, I have a cough. I can't show up today. And I'm like, there's a reason you're not making money. Like you have to move through some stuff sometimes. But at the same time, what I'm learning in the last 3 weeks is I've been moving through a lot, like in my personal life, and a lot of just like old, pattern app never lies. I moved into a pattern of a lot of old things having to resurface so that I can shift and mold and become the woman I ultimately want to become, which means I have to look and feel through a lot of things. An old me would have like taken that victim role and been like, why is this happening? Someone more, not, I guess is damsel in distress would be a better way of describing the role that I assimilated, where it's like someone has to come take this pain from me. Someone has to go do something about this. And what I learned in the last 3 weeks is my mechanisms of self-soothing. Like usually I'll lean heavily into my friendships. Usually I'll lean like heavily into my partners. And this season I paused, and I also took time off. I had to take a week off work because I was really fucking sick, and I didn't even take off when I had COVID. Like it was so bad, and I hated having to move my meetings. And you watched me go through that. And then even yesterday, like I was supposed to record a podcast, but I was going through something, and I was just like, I literally can't even like think straight right now. And so instead of mustering through it, which I know I can do, what if I did the thing of actually giving myself the love that I know I need and I deserve, and catering to that younger part of me that had to grow up too quick? And really working through that these last 3 weeks of just like catering to that younger part of self of like, it's not, I'm really working on that because I mean, we all know I have a lot of daddy energy of like, I don't do well with people that have victim mentality. And I don't like, I have a very like drill sergeant kind of way to a fault. And so really reworking my, that's weak when you have to do things that I don't have control over. Like it's not weak. It's actually very soft. It's very mothering. It's very nurturing. And it's a part of myself that I don't necessarily, know at the best, no matter how much work I've done, that is like the part where I'm like, Laura, it is okay to slow down. And wildly enough, it's like, I've never made more money. Like, I don't know how it happened. And like my relationship went through the fucking ringer and it's deeper than it has ever been. And like my health went through the fucking ringer and now it's back. And it's like, I've been mustering for so fucking long that now I can look at things and be like, oh, there's a good balance. Like you intuitively will know when you have to push like you're feeling today. And then you'll intuitively know where it's like, it's okay. Like things will, I've built up enough momentum that it's okay for me to relax a little bit now and do this next caliber work that I have to do.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm
Man.
so happy. I was so excited when you had that experience where you were like, I think it was maybe after you were sick or before you were sick. And I think you had like a 14K week, good cash week, which is amazing. And it was like, you were like, I don't know what my posts are doing. I'm barely even showing up on stories, but I guess it's working. I guess this shit that you guys talk about actually works.
Literally.
And I'm just so happy for that sweet version of you inside of you that I get to see little glimpses of, the version of you that wasn't given that permission and that didn't feel like she could actually rest. And to see her soften, like, oh my God.
It's so interesting. Even as you're saying that, it's so interesting because it's that part of myself that I think is getting healed right now is earning it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in my mind around I've earned being, a top athlete. I've earned being top in certain areas of my businesses and certain departments that I've been in and certain things. Like I've always had to earn it in certain degrees, where it's now it's like it's a different caliber of earning it, where it's like I've done so much work over the last year. Now the gas gets to be taken off and it gets to kind of flow. And then there's going to be a season when I'm putting the gas on again. Like it's not all just flowy and, you know, I'm rubbing my womb and blah, 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 it falls from the sky. Like that's not it. It's because of the momentum. That's what I'm looking at, where it's like, it wouldn't be. And I think a lot of people listening where, you know, where you get upset about like, or you're in that of like witnessing like the victim role and the things like that, it's because they haven't put in the work yet. And I think that's where there's this misconstruction and misconstrued perception of like high achievers in entrepreneurship. It's like, no, you have to go in and then you get to chill. You don't just get to chill because you did some visualizations and expect things to work. It's like you've worked your ass off and you have to muster through, and life is going to throw you a whole fuck ton of curveballs, and you have to be able to differentiate of like, do I lean in? Do I pause? Do I do the things? But like, did I put in enough work to actually take this pause? And like earning it is a thing, but it can't be to the fault of like your health and your relationships and things like that. And I think that's what I'm witnessing with this whole like victim mindset thing.
And I also think that, like, for me, there is a difference between powering through in the sense of like, I don't necessarily say I'm powering through something because it's like, I'm choosing this. I'm not, for me, powering through in the past, just in my own language, like in the past, that would mean I'm pushing myself to the end until I'm literally sick in a bed and I can't get up. And I saw how that put me behind over and over and over and over and over. So when I look at something where I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to take a little bit of a dose of like some sexy discipline and some structure, then I'm like, okay, well, I'm in charge of this and I'm choosing, let's go. Like it's go time, rather than like, I need to like burst through all of this, because I think there's still power in taking rest as you're doing it. There's a difference between resting as you're doing it versus taking any experience that might rock the boat just a little bit as a really, really convenient and valid excuse to not do the thing that's the most uncomfortable in front of you. Because the reality is that like with as much freedom and love and joy and fulfillment and purpose that entrepreneurship brings and having a business brings, I will always say that business is my most spiritual practice. Yes, because it brings joy and fulfillment, 1,000%. There's a level of energy that you get to unlock that's unlike any other experience. It's like being fully alive when you know that you're doing something that's worthwhile in this world. And also, you will come up against every single side of yourself. There is massive challenge. There are days where you don't want to do it. There are days where it's easy, where you could say, I could just not, and I don't want to handle this. And so I'm going to avoid it, or I'm going to let everything fade and unconsciously self-sabotage the entire thing because I just don't want to deal with this one thing that's right in front of me, or it's hard. Yes, it is hard. You know, like I feel like I've come to realize over a few years, it can be easy. There's a way to use your energy to bring so much fun and light and ease to business. And also, like, you can't deny the initiations that come with leadership and being somebody who's a true guide in this world, not just someone who thinks that they can teach something or show up and create content online, but actually assuming the responsibility to be a guide. That's different. You know, like I was having a conversation with someone around fast fashion versus luxury, and both have their place in the world. But if you look at creating a brand over time, it cannot be built on a shitty product or something that doesn't last. It's got to be built on principles that last through generation after generation. And if somebody doesn't want to uphold the principle in favor of getting a quick buck, that brand is going to deteriorate over time because people are fucking smart, right? Mm-hmm. Same is true within business. There is a difference between assuming the role and the responsibility of not labeling yourself as luxury, but more so just assuming the role and the responsibility of being a guide in this world, being someone who stands for something where every single day you're working on bettering yourself so that you can also create a 1% change in everybody else. That's a different thing. And if there's a tug on your heart to do that, which I think for a lot of people, especially people listening to this podcast, like there's that tug on your heart, you know it's there. That means that there's going to be initiations that come with that level of leadership. It's not just bestowed upon you and everything is beautiful and amazing and everyone looks up to you. It's like you earn it over your life. Funny that you were saying earning it. You earn it over your life because of how you lead yourself through experiences that then open your heart up to deeper loves that you can transfer that to other people, you know? And I think that that's going to be the key differentiating factor between people who have a quick rise within this industry, within is even online on social media, and people who are truly remembered for years and years to come.
Because I mean, it's a legacy, right? It's that type of energy where I see a lot of people, oh, I want this. I want $1 million brand. I want to lead this movement. I want this type of love. I want this type of leadership. I want to be this type of mother. You have to recognize the level of responsibility that comes with that. And that's what people don't want, because they want to become an entrepreneur and they want these things because ultimately the freedom that they're going to get. And yes, you have freedom, but with that freedom comes more and more responsibility, more and more things to worry about. And that's where I see people upper limiting, because you hit that stretch where it goes, oh shit, this is a lot.
Yeah.
I have staff to feed. I have bigger bills to pay. I have more responsibility. I have over X amount of clients to cater to every day. I have different parts of my brain on top of my own mentorship, on top of my own relationships, on top of my own healing. And you have to expand your nervous system to be able to hold these things. And what I see a lot of people going to is that victim role of like, this is hard. And they won't even say like, this is hard. It'll be like, this happened at work. I'm sick. I have this headache. This is happening with my health. This is happening here. And sure, you get to have that to a degree. Like I the 3 stages of like victimhood is like, you get to be a victim for a little bit, especially when things initially happen, you get to for a little bit. And then this becomes this like superhero journey where you're sitting there and you're like, I made it through this. And it's like your ego driven thing that actually fails because you hit a plateau. And then you actually get to a point of your healing journey where like, you forget that's even part of it. And you just get that this is part of it. Like anytime I know I get sick, and this is what you were saying on our FaceTime, anytime something happens, anything that's clawing at you, you know there's greatness on the other side of it. So you power through it in a certain, maybe it's resting through it like I did, or powering through like you're doing, but you know on the other side of your leadership, because of on the other side of that is a new level of leadership because of the role that you have adopted. And you have to adopt that role if you want to lead something big. If your identity is about creating a movement and it's going beyond just yourself and really stepping into this level, beyond just the money, beyond just the freedom, beyond just that thing, it's like, this is my identity, right? I can do hard things and I can do them by being soft, and I can do them, but this is my power, right? And like the differentiation between this is like checking in with your body of like what you asked me when I was sick. Is that fair for you to come up to your clients right now? Like I literally, my brain wasn't working. It just was not working. Nothing out of my mouth was making sense. And I was like, but I don't cancel meetings. My word is law. And you're like, how is that fair to your clients? How's it? Don't they want, and like that part of my brain, I was like, that part, I, cause that's my leadership. I can power through and get it done because that is what I could do. But what is my level of leadership by doing that? Oh, okay. I can actually be a better leader by softening and actually taking a week off so I can come back and do the things. Or is it like another thing where like, I actually have to power through and something's going on, or I'm going through this in my relationship, but it doesn't fucking matter, or traffic's like this, or I have a headache. It doesn't fucking matter. Show up. You said you would. Like there's different levels that you have to be able to move through so that you can actually take on those responsibilities and lead the movement that you're meant to be leading.
1,000%. And I think hitting that upper limit where you want to collapse, it feels so real. You know, like it feels like, even in your instance, like it feels so real that you can't move these calls. That you like have to, that the world is on fire and you have to show up. On some level, it's being a victim to your own mind because it's running it even though your body is telling you otherwise. Or even like traffic, or like I'm going through a lot right now, or like lots of different things. And it's so personal on, is this really truth and something that I need to look at and take a rest because of, or is this me hitting my upper limit and it's, you know, showing up in a cute little package that feels so real and so true. But if I just hold myself a little bit longer through this, if I dig in my heels instead of wanting to flee, if I just look at the thing, could I wiggle through that? And is it actually a non-issue that dissolves over time? I just needed to kind of move through it. So it's an interesting dance. And it also, I think, comes with a lot of trial and error. You know, for me, there's times where it's like I will give in to something and be like, oh, I need to take a break, and being like, maybe that wasn't fully serving of me. Or there are definitely. I think this is where I've learned the most. There are times where I powered through and it's been at my detriment, and it has led to things that aren't effective for my time. For example, getting sick for longer versus just having a quick thing. All of those different experiences.
How do you differentiate? Like, how did you today know that, okay, I know I could take a break, but I'm going to power through this because X, Y, Z versus times that we have moved things? Like, what is the difference for you?
I think, first of all, on like a body level, I'm not sick. It's like my body went through something and the worst of it passed. And my brain actually feels so clear, which is really funny. I feel really tired, but my brain feels clear. I'm not on the verge of like anything. I get to rest the rest of the day. It's Saturday. Like, I'm not doing anything the rest of the day. So my body was feeling okay. And then my day was set up to be able to rest a lot afterwards. And I was excited about this. And on a more intuitive level, though, it's just like there was nothing in my body that was saying no.
Yeah.
Like that, like I was looking forward to it. I'm like, oh, this is sexy. This is fun. Like, I just got to take a 2-hour nap. Now I'm getting up. Let me get dressed. Like, that's going to make me feel good and feel better versus wallowing in like the experience that I had and maybe the remnants of being a victim that comes after that, for me. And it's also for me a reflection of what I'm personally working through right now, that what I'm personally working through is being in charge of my own life and really making conscious decisions around what needs to happen and when, versus letting my body always dictate it for me. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
What about you?
Honestly, I'm not the best at it. Like, I'm not gonna lie to the online world right now. While you're here, the person that has to talk me through it each time.
You up for that?
And so I'm like, okay. I am not the best at it. I'm getting better. But I have to, my lizard brain is my like dominant survivor brain. Like that, I mean, it's everyone's, but like mine is just like, I'm not used to the fact that like I am now safe. I have plenty of money. Like, no, nothing is on fire anymore, but like this is new to me. Right? Like, it's just this year that like my business actually started having money. Like, I'm actually safe. It's actually my money. Like, it's coming in. It's okay if you take a nap. Like, it was okay then too. Like, there was never any actual fires, but because my bank account was negative, I thought there was. And so I'm now adjusting because those are two different brains, right? Like, I didn't get to rest. Like, if I didn't hustle, I didn't have food, right? And my bills weren't paid, and it was terrifying time, but like that's where I had to go. Where now it's that reminder of like, okay, Laura, like you have a new level of leadership, you have a new level of clientele, you have a new level that I'm at and who I serve and how I serve them, and that requires my body to be at peak levels. And so I'm now adjusting to that of like, no, I need to rest. Like it's part of it. It's not the hustle anymore. It is part of me resting and getting enough sleep and making sure my relationship is in order and making sure I'm well nourished and like making sure I'm actually healthy and my hormones are balanced. Like that is where I need to focus so that I can better serve my clients right now. And so I have people like you that I can like tell honestly what's going on and like the battle that internally I'm like, no, like my word is law. I can't move these meetings. I can't do these things. And you're like, why? What? No, they will get it. And it's so funny because when I did move it, like my clients saw my stories, like I would just post that I was sick and they ended up moving themselves. They were like, I don't want to be like you're in bed all day. I don't want to do that to you. And I don't want that energy. And so they're higher level. They get it at this point too. They don't need me in that way. They're very low maintenance. And so they're like, I would rather have you at peak performance than like your sick ass brain. And so, yeah, I'm learning to be like, oh, it's okay to take rest, but I literally need to be told to take a rest. Otherwise, I won't naturally do it. And that's what I'm learning. Like, if I'm being honest with the people, like, I get it. I teach trauma and all the things. And I'm like, yeah. But like, I never once am like, yeah, I totally rest. I'm like, I'm riddled with anxiety and I work on it and I love it to a fault. And like, I am just now in that stage of like, dating someone that wants to slow me down, you know, being with friends that want to slow me down. Like, there's my environment, and now my body just has to kind of be okay in that.
I love it. I love it. And I totally get it. Cause like by no means am I perfect at it. Like there's
Yeah.
my family will still always call me and it's 8 p.m. at night and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just have to finish this one thing. They're like, stop. Like there are so many
You're
times.
notorious for like working so late. And I'm like,
What?
You're notorious for like you're working way late. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah. You see, like you shut off earlier. Like I have a hard time like lights still out. I'm
Yeah.
working. You know, that's also because we have a lot of freedom and flexibility in the day. And sometimes that's just when I want to work, you know, but like I still run myself into the ground to a fault sometimes. 1,000%. And I think what's helped me basically like mind fuck myself into doing it is by framing it. My mom is so freaking good at this. She's been on me about it for my entire life, but it's looking at what is actually the most effective for you right now and the most efficient. Like, is it actually effective for you to serve your clients at 30% capacity and to try and give them a good experience that they're paying for while you're, you know, not fully there? I just don't think that's fair. A, B, it's not effective or efficient use of anyone's time. And so if I can think about it with my logical brain, and also then when I'm making choices about my body, it's like, what's going to give me the most energy so that I can show up to serve? Like I have a mission to serve. And so therefore my energy is first and foremost, not because I'm like, oh, my energy is first and foremost. And I am, you know, this incredible being that's worthy of doing that. Like that wasn't my route of getting to that place, you know? And I know that awareness will evolve over time. But in looking at like, okay, what's actually going to give me the most energy for how I need to show up, and then shifting my life around that. That goes for food, that goes for workouts, it goes for sleep, it goes for rest, like it goes for breaks, like all of that. Which is interesting.
Yeah, I feel like mine lately has been like, what is the best of service? How can I be best of service? So that is why it's like, I know when I don't need to be working out so intensely because I have a big day of meetings in that day. I know, you know, what foods I need to be eating to balance my blood sugar. I know, you know, I've tremendously cut down my drinking because I just can't have that brain the next day. Like I need my full brain. And it's just kind of looking at these things of like going back to what is your bigger why? What's the bigger purpose? Like what are you showing up for?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, moving out of that, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't do this in a certain way, like how my brain is. It's like, oh, you know, and it's just like, okay, is something me and my man say. It's just like, there is no fire. Like there's no fire anymore. So
For
just be here
what?
now. Huh?
I said, for what?
Yeah, it's just like there's no fire, slow down. And it's just like, right, okay, yes, for sure. Okay, let's be here now and like calm down a little bit. And like, you know, I think the biggest thing as well is like knowing yourself. Like I think a lot of people, like it took me a while to just accept the fact that like this is who I am and it makes sense that this is how I am. I'm on the path of shifting and slowing down, but like I also love the fact like I get a fuck ton done and there's a reason I love it, but I do want to lessen it. And so it's like I recognize this is who I am. So when something happens, I outsource. Like I know my brain's going to work one way because I've been this way. So I have people around me to call when I'm sick, or to, you know, my boyfriend and you. It's just like, hey, I'm really sick right now. I remember when I was sick and he's like, Laura, move your meetings. And then I call and I'm like, no, like defiant to him. And then I call Stef and she's like, move your meetings. I was like, okay. And he's like, why would she?
Yeah.
Like, why do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a defiant teenager. But it's like sourcing, like I know myself. And so therefore I know I just need a permission slip. And then when someone gives me the permission slip, then I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That type of way.
And I sometimes need a permission slip of like, you're strong, you can handle this.
Yeah.
Which is really
I think that's why we're friends.
But I think so too. And yeah, because it's sometimes easier for me to be like, you know, something's happening.
Yeah.
And that was funny.
I also Sorry to interrupt. I also think like the step ahead. Like that's what I think about a lot, where it's like, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow?
Oh my God,
How am I
yeah.
going to feel this in the next 48 hours? And that's when I do that with everything. I do that with literally my blood sugar. Like yesterday I was sad and I ate a pint of ice cream and sitting there and I was like, how am I going to feel tomorrow? And I was like, it's Greek yogurt ice cream. I'm fine. I was like, we're going to be a little tired in the morning. We need deep protein right when we wake up. But it's like, I'm constantly, before I go to bed, I calculate how many vegetables I had that day because I know what my bowel movements are going to be the next day, so that I literally will think about it. And so it's like one of those things that I'm constantly thinking about. Okay, how am I going to feel about doing this now in the next 48 hours? Because I'll probably still have a dopamine in 24 hours. In 48 hours, how am I going to feel if I take this rest? And I'm like, I'll feel fine. If I don't take this rest, what am I going to feel like? And it's like, you're going to be sick for fucking 2 weeks. Sit down. Like it's kind of being in those kind of forward momentum, future tripping things.
Yeah. I do that about staying up past 11 and drinking. 1000%. I mean, it's like why I've mostly cut out alcohol in my life, because it's just like, how am I going to feel tomorrow or in 3 days? Caffeine too. I'm like, after day 1, I'm fine. Day 2 might be a little bit off. After 3 days, like 3 days of drinking caffeine, pointing to this like it's caffeine, it's cacao, which I guess has a little bit of stimulant. But anyway, it's different. It's different. After 3 days, how am I going to be? And if I'm drinking caffeine for 3 days, I will have a mental breakdown on that 3rd day. I will not be okay. I will feel like something else is taking over my body and it's not right. And same with alcohol, where it's like, okay, I could tolerate it for 1 day, but then what happens after, like on the 3rd day? And actually for me, the turnaround time with alcohol is way quicker. And I'm like, do I have space to be a little bit less emotionally regulated? Or do I have space to be a little bit more anxious? Do I have space in my brain to add that in? Or do I just need to focus on the things that I'm in charge of? Like, having conversations or doing things that feel uncomfortable, like all of those things that happen on a daily basis within business. So I feel you, girl. I feel you.
Again, going back to the responsibility piece. Like it all comes back to it, where it's like, it is my responsibility to make this vessel function in the best way, based on my environment, based on how I'm nourishing myself, based on the relationships I'm in, like everything, because I assume the role of a leader. I need to be in my peak performance. And so it's being able to move out of that like part where a lot of people will self-sabotage, where it's like, I know to a lot of people, the way that we're speaking is like, that's a lot. And it's like, because we assume the role as leaders, it's like, this is just the way our brains are going to think, because that's how leaders think. Every single one, that any table you sit at, that is what they're thinking. How is this affecting me? What's the long-term gain in this? What's going on here? Every move is in that way. And if you don't want that type of responsibility, that's why you don't have the success that you're having yet, because that's your block right there, where it's just like, oh, that seems like a lot. It is. That's the role of a leader. Like, you can't sit in that victim mentality part where it's just being like, oh, that's a lot. I just want to flow and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense why you're at where you're at the end of the day. Like, being able to sit here and be like, okay, here's my day, here's my eating schedule, and here's my stuff, and here's how this is certain foods that I'm putting into my body, and making sure I'm getting my fucking organ meats in the middle of the day. I'm like doing these things. I am on this organ meat kick. I just picked some up at the farmer's market this morning, where I'm like peak performance. This is what I'm doing for my hormones. I'm preparing for a baby, so I got to have this stuff and I got to do these things, and it's long term. And I'm like, some people would think this is crazy, and it is.
So what's the why behind responsibility? Because I think we've talked a lot about being in charge and the things that you have to be in charge of within your life. But, what I've heard, I've had this conversation a lot recently. It's come up around, especially clients. And of course, it's always a reflection of myself. When you're reaching a new threshold of your own leadership, no matter what stage you're at, there is that part that's like, but I don't want to. Like when you come up against that pattern that you've been so comfortable using your entire life, and it's pretty easy and safe to be where you are, and then you're asked to rise to a new level. And like, there's more stuff. And if you're a smart human, you know that, new level, new devil there's going to be the most incredible freedom and joy and achievements that you never felt that you could ever experience. But there's also going to be other sides of yourself that come up, or experiences that you have that again, initiate you into the next level of your leadership. Right. So there's always going to be a light and dark side. And once you recognize that, there can be that part that's like, do I really have to? Like, God, why another one? Like, why this? Like, why did you send me this? And that part that just wants to back down in that and in the resentment of it and in the like, why'd I get this one, homie? Like, no, like that. Then what do you rely on to move through that rather than stay a victim to it?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You mean what I just went through like last night?
Yeah.
I mean, it's at different levels, right? Like in my work life, I look at the impact that I'm making, and ultimately, yes, more responsibility, but also more time freedom. It doesn't necessarily mean I get to do willy nilly, but the more responsibility I have noticed that I take on, the more I control my schedule. I get a fuck ton done in a week, but I'm controlling when that gets done and how that gets done. Like I am the leader of that based on the responsibility versus I am now a victim to my schedule and I'm running around and I'm filled with all these fucking blue marks and orange marks all over my schedule and all the things, But are you okay? She's
I'm
choking
good.
over there.
I was trying to figure out how to mute myself.
But like looking at that type of things, like yes, I have more responsibility, but I genuinely do have more time freedom. And I genuinely do. I get to move around my schedule however I want it to look, and I can move things around and make things work.
I am in charge of this versus being overwhelmed by the schedule. That is so huge.
Exactly.
That's so
exactly.
huge.
And because I took responsibility of all of the things, all the back end stuff, all the shit people don't want to do, And then at the same time, wanting more responsibility like in my relationship because there's greater love. Like there is always going to be what I'm experiencing is like there's going to be as you were talking, I was like literally what we're walking through right now is like, oh, this gets to be a great love, but like at this new level that we're stepping into, there is a lot of devils and there's a lot of things that come up and it's hugely vulnerable. And we both sat last night where it's just like, but I want that responsibility to go through this with you. And I want to assume this role and I want to move through this with you versus at you. Otherwise, we both know we'd be repeating it with another partner, or like, of course, we'd be fine being single, but it's like, but ultimately, when you're single, you want a partner. So I want the responsibility of a relationship, of a teammate, of this, of staying power. And so that more responsibility with my health so that I can be a mom, like I have to start looking at now because I want kids mid next year, or at least start trying mid next year where it's like, okay, so I'm going to start eating my fucking organ meats now and start focusing on these things and looking at my nervous system and looking at my fucking follicles and all this shit in my body where it's like, okay, let's do this all stuff because long term, right? Like it's different things. It's not one core why of all of the things, but in different departments, there is a long term why as to why doing it. What about you?
I would say, like, I could go into every area and give you those tangible missions and whys. But what I've come to at the heart of all of it for me is, that feeling when you conquer something or you have a fear that comes up and you feel like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. I don't know how I'm ever going to get through this. And you're like, you know what? I've got myself. You pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you're like, I'm in charge of this. I'm going to move forward in this. The fucking liberation on the other side of that. Like, it's the whole reason why it's called the fully alive movement, is that feeling of like, I'm alive and like, I can do anything. I can literally do anything. If I can make it through this, and obviously it's going to lead me to something good because God is not going to put an experience in your life that's going to lead you to a place where you're just going to continue tumbling down. Like, it doesn't work like that. Yeah. You're always given lessons to evolve and grow. It has to happen. And it's like, at this point in my life, I've seen that over and over where on the other side of anything hard, whether it's a hard conversation, a hard emotion to move through, heartbreak, whether it's an up level in your business where you have to make some calls, like all of those things, no matter what, they have to lead to something good on the other side. It has to happen. And so when I can then be like the ninja, the one who's in charge, who moves through all of that, the badge of like, oh, I'm so proud of who I am, that feeling on the other side. And then also just the feeling of possibility where you're like, I can literally make it through anything. And if I can make it through anything, I can have anything, I can do anything, I can want anything. It's all mine. Like, let's freaking go and let's change lives as we do it. That for me is always at the heart of it. It's like that just innate soul desire to grow and evolve. Because if I weren't growing and evolving and staying the same, I'm going to get sick. Something's going to happen that's going to reflect that, because that's not what my soul came here to do. I'm not here to coast. I'm here to continually evolve over time. So I would say that that's the biggest mission at the heart of it. And then from there, of course, it's, you know, impact and purpose and like the actual why that's behind everything I do within business. It's, you know, what I want to create, exactly as you're saying, in my relationship. It's all of those different pieces that, of course, drive like the day-to-day decisions as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to get to that place yourself. Don't you feel like I've been coming up against this in different conversations where it's like you can't create that innate and intense desire to grow in somebody. It's like you have to go through some things, see who you are on the other side, and then you recognize it yourself. You know, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that you can lead someone to that decision, or do you feel like it's, how is it created?
Trauma. But I do think so, like different degrees, where it's like when people ask me like, how do I have my drive and this vision and these things, and I was like, I wish it upon no one. Because the reason I have it is because of what I went through, and I would never in my deepest heart never want someone to go through what I went through. Unfortunately, a lot of people do. And I remember when I was listening to Aman Gamazi one time, and he was talking about this concept where he was like, every great leader has been through something that has created this internal urgency that is unmatched. And if you haven't had something like that, he's like, I know this is extreme, but go get credit cards and rack up the debt on it and watch how quickly you work to get something done, because you now have this spark inside of you. And I was like, I am never going to advise my clients to do that, but very masculine way of doing something to create some type of trauma within yourself. And I
do it.
It's like, here, go get in the fire, like do something horrific. But there's a reason why like most men start doing self-development work after the greatest breakup of their lives. You know, people always ask like, how do I get my man to, or what gets men to do the work? And it's most often some type of heartbreak or their parents getting older and they want to start to create something great. Women were a little bit different, but usually it is off the back end of something traumatic that happened. You know, something in our heart broke because of something. And so I'm going to now start to create this internal urgency to do something greater than myself and start to study myself a little bit more and start to go on the self-development journey a little bit more and start to build this a little bit more. And you start to grow and grow and grow and see, oh, when I do something great, I feel like this. Oh, when I do something outside of victim role and I start to create my life, this feels really good. Oh my God, I am now responsible for my life. And I think that's what we have to look at, where it's like things will constantly happen to you, but like how you react to them is your responsibility. And I think when you can start to make that switch within your mind and then see the rewards of that, that's when things start to shift tremendously.
1000%.
What do you think?
You gotta see some shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think, for me and my personal lens, it's like, yes, there have been, you know, I was very grateful. I always say I'm very grateful that I experienced my first true rock bottom at a very early age. And that I'm so grateful for that, because it opened my eyes in a way to a power so much greater than me, and to growing in this world and why I want to. Like when you pick yourself up from not wanting to be in this planet and on this world, and then you somehow find your way through, or you have an awakening that leads to something that you can, you know, shift and move out of that. I think there's no going back. You know what I mean? I completely lost my train of thought. I'm so loopy.
I love it. It's just
give me a key.
It's something early in your life that happened and set you on the path. So now you have the rest of the time to go about.
Okay, so the point being is that, you know, yes, you can see some shit in your life. And I also think, you know, for some people, it comes through a challenge that they have internally, or a pattern that they were exposed to for a long period of time over time versus one specific event that happens. You know, it's like we all have our own internal battles and challenges. And to find that place within your soul, like that innate knowing. And I'm so curious to see the younger generations and how much they know this, but there's that innate deep knowing in your soul that you came here to evolve. Like, why else are we on this earth planet? And that's a question that I've grappled with so many different times. Like, why'd I choose coming here? Like, Earth is a planet of duality. There's so much intensity going on within our world. And just, I mean, like, you guys, everyone know, right? Like, it's crazy what's happening. So like, why the fuck did I choose this one? You know? And like, oh my God, now I have to deal with challenges and I get to deal with like all of these different things. And on some level, it's that we came here to experience growth and evolution, and also to actually experience this beautiful three-dimensional world. And so once you get in touch with that part of your soul, which I think can happen through a multitude of different experiences and lessons, you realize that, you know, it's the best part of being here, is getting to grow through it instead of just staying stuck where you are.
I think that's your superpower, though. Like, when you can be able to look at life and be like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, life is supposed to be lifey. I don't want to live in the 5D. I want to live in the human realm, because I want to experience all of what life has for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of getting through it. And you're like, oh shit, I did that. I did
Yeah.
that human thing in the human realm. Like, that was fucking dope. Let's do it again. Like, the biggest thing is like to be able to die and get to the gates of heaven, and to be able to sit there and be like, holy shit. Like, did you see like that wild ass journey? And to be able to experience and assume all roles and all experiences with gratitude, like still having grief, but being able to have gratitude for whatever that is, you know?
Yeah.
It's always a gift.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's interesting. And this is, I'm so curious again what future generations are going to be like.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you feel the love that's actually truth, you know, it's like, whether that is God for you, whether that is just the sensation of deep love that we are all made up of. And once you've had an experience of actually feeling what that is, whether it's through your own personal awakening, journey, meditation, whatever it is, once you touch that, you know, it is, to me, like there's no replacing that entire feeling. Laura, it fucking happened again.
What? You forgot?
This is how I can tell you guys.
This is how she's at capacity.
It's off today.
A little off. It's okay. I feel like you nailed that point. I don't think there was more left of that point.
Oh,
Wait, I think that was a good one. I mean, let's wrap it up. We've been going 46 minutes. That's good. I thought it was going to be 20 minutes. You did good.
Look at us go.
But I also think it was good because we didn't know, like, are we going to talk about victim? Are we going to talk about, like, our lives? Are we going to talk about confidence? Are we going to talk about blah, 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 blah? I think this episode, for anyone listening, and we would love to hear from you over on Instagram. My Instagram is itslaurapatriciamartin.
Mine's at stefanieelsperman.
But just, like, tell us your takeaway, right? Like, I think a lot of us can get stuck in victim mentality, ourselves included. And especially during the summer season, if you're listening to this during the summer, I think because there's a lot of things going on, at least what I'm seeing with my clients, is a lot of people will get victim to the chaos versus like, it's summer. Of course it's chaotic. Like, this is just what it is.
All good things that you wanted.
Exactly. But like, you're not 6 anymore. You're an adult, which means everyone's out of school and everyone wants to hang out with you. Of we just shift.
I couldn't hear anything that you said, so we'll see what that sounds like on.
I love it. All right, my dears. We'll see you on the next episode.
This has been amazing. Love you.
Love you.